8:4 to 8:38 here, Big 550 KTRS. Our friend, who's fast becoming we like better than David Stokes. To hell with the old, in with the new. Show Me Institute policy analyst. Good morning, Joe Miller.
Good morning.
How'd you get to cab? How'd you get to work today?
Well, I didn't take a cab.
Didn't take a cab.
No pedicab. I took the Metrolink again.
Took the Metrolink again?
Again, 2 weeks in a row.
Holy
Do you
mackerel.
own a car?
No, I don't.
Oh.
His fiancee or soon-to-be wife owns the car.
Yes, she does. And
Yes.
she's got to take it to work. So.
Uh-huh. Good. All right, Joe Miller. Now they want to regulate the pedicabs.
That's right. This is the Metropolitan Taxi Cab Commission, the same group that is trying to keep Uber out of St. Louis and Lyft and the like, and regulates taxis in the city. They are now going after pedicabs, which are the bicycle rickshaws, the people on the bikes driving people around in their cabs.
And so, what are they afraid of? If what background check do you have to take to become a pedicab? What are they afraid of?
Well, they want a fingerprint background check, just as if you were going to drive a cab. To give some background on the Metropolitan Taxi Cab Commission, which I've talked about a little bit before, this is a group that was set up to mostly regulate taxis, and they right now have 7 members. They're supposed to have 9, but they only have 7, and 4 of those members actually represent the taxi industry. So there's a big conflict of interest, and they are very, very pro regulate everything. And when Uber and Lyft try to come in here and still are trying to come in here because the Taxi Cab Commission is still fighting it.
Right.
They said, all we care about is health and safety. We don't care about anything else, really. We don't care about the way the businesses operate or anything like that.
What brought this on is because, the Cardinals are going to be playing soon, and they've been operating this way for years. So
what's brought this on is they do have the power to regulate these groups, these pedicabs, and they do have some regulations on what you can do already. I mean, they were handing out licenses before this. That they stopped doing that a couple years ago, but they have done it before. And it's kind of the case with regulations like this in general, that the people asking for the regulation don't tend to be customers, don't tend to be people who have just been ripped off or people who have felt in fear of their safety.
Right.
They actually tend to be people already in the industry. So when taxi regulations first come up, generally speaking, it's the taxi owners, the taxi drivers who request it. Lake of the Ozarks actually just had tax regulations go up and it was prompted by taxi owners saying, "Hey, the competition out there, it's too haphazard. We want to regulate this industry, its growth. We want to make sure it's to the standard that we would like it." And generally speaking, it's to the benefit of the people who are existing pedicab owners, and they want things to operate like they're doing it, and they want to restrict competition. So you have this case with the pedicabs where the Taxi Cab Commission comes in and says, okay, we're going to regulate this, but they don't just care about safety, because the first thing they do after the safety regulations, which may or may not be justified, is to regulate how much they can charge. And in this case, they've done exactly that. They've said you can only charge $2 for a couple blocks, and if you add another person, you put in $1 more. But why does the Taxi Cab Commission, why do these 7 guys know what a pedicab should charge? Like, where is their expertise in that?
Well, and where is between the pedicab and the person who's getting the ride? If the pedicab says $5, where are you going? Washington and Tucker. Okay, $10. Never mind, I'll walk. Okay, $5. All right, hop in. Right? I mean, where you're not. It isn't like, oh my goodness, this is some regulated drug that you have to have that needs some type of price control on it.
In this case, I would say with pedicabs especially, these are very recreational. These are not something that people are relying on to get to work or anything.
Right.
This is something people are doing for fun. The only people who should be deciding what types of prices are paid for this industry are the people who provide the pedicabs and the people who want to ride the pedicabs. And the idea that you have this commission who sits there and says, well, we want this much insurance, we want fingerprint background checks. Oh, and also we want to regulate how they do their business. And this is only one step away from well, now we need to restrict supply because we don't want too many pedicabs out there on game day. We need to make sure that this is a stable industry.
They also went after the horse-drawn carriages. Is this the same? This is the same people who went after the horse-drawn carriages a couple years ago?
I mean, this is the same group. They have the power to also go after horse-drawn carriages. So they put in regulations on how much you can charge and how you do business.
So since they went after Uber and said that Uber, you can't be in here, and Uber is defying them, what teeth does this commission have if Uber is still doing whatever it is they want to do?
The Metropolitan Taxi Cab Commission actually does have a very limited enforcement capability. It actually does have officers on its staff. Problem is that they really can't do anything citywide without the city or the county helping them out, which is why when Lyft first came in, they were able to block that out because the city started ticketing, the county started ticketing. And the reason why Uber's operating right now is simply because the city of St. Louis is just not enforcing what the Taxi Cab Commission says. And so the Taxi Cab Commission doesn't have the power to do it.
Which is even worse. So it's sort of haphazard in their rules in enforcement.
I think so, but what I think is more crazy than that is that we have this body that is not just not listening to people who want to take Uber, which has been pretty loud and pretty pervasive,
right.
the call for that. But they're also ignoring the city government, which said, make a deal that Uber's going to accept because we want that here. We don't want to hear any more about you saying no. Find a way to make it work. And the Taxi Cab Commission said, no, we're not going to make it work, which is really weird because in most cities that don't have a regional taxi cab commission, they've bowed to the pressure of either their city government or the states come in and said, we've had enough of this. And they've come in and regulated. In fact, most states now have ride-sharing regulations, statewide ride-sharing regulations, and there's a proposal to do that in Missouri as well, because these local governments, these local commissions, they get captured by the special interest, they get captured by the taxi interest. Here, 4 out of 7 straight taxi cab interest, and they can't stop themselves from regulating.
Here's what I don't understand. So in the city and the county covered by the Taxi Cab Commission, Uber is basically thumbing their nose at the Taxi Cab Commission and picking up and dropping off in the city and the county. St. Charles, it's not doing anything in St. Charles, and they don't have a Taxi Cab Commission, and no one's told them they can't do anything in St. Charles.
St. Charles the city has its own code, but the county doesn't have its own commission.
Right.
So you're right about that. And the interesting thing about all of this is, I would say that they don't really know how to regulate these things, and they don't actually ever point out why they should be regulating them. So what's wrong with the pedicab services right now? What has been a crisis that has led us to this? Is there some danger going on down there?
Is there a pedicab murderer on the loose?
Yeah, we should be asking, before any new regulation goes in, I mean, people say, oh, safety this, and maybe that'll be okay. But we should ask before we put in any regulation that's going to restrict business, why do we need it? What is the compelling case here? Have we had a problem with pedicabs? Because I don't think we have. I can't find any stories of a pedicab causing huge trouble. The only thing I've read is that some pedicab owners think it's too haphazard on Cardinals game day, which, frankly, I don't think that's the business of the city to get involved in or this taxi cab commission.
It's a really interesting argument. But I want to know why Uber's not in St. Charles. Right? I mean, no one's told them they can't go to St. Charles, but they're not in St. Charles. They've been told don't go to city or the county, and they're in the city and the county.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Uber has to roll out in certain places, and they haven't rolled out everywhere yet that it's possible to roll out.
Right.
But I think that over time, as long as the municipalities within St. Charles County don't throw up barriers, I think you'll see Uber out there too.
Joe Miller, Show Me Institute policy analyst. Always interesting. Where can we read more?
You can read everything we write about this at showmeinstitute.org.
Now get back on Metrolink. 8:47 here, Big 5.